What's going on, guys? Your boy Amazing here, back with another video, and in today's video guys, we're going to be going over these slime collaboration characters and ranking them in a tier list pretty much. So this is just kind of ranking them in amongst themselves pretty much, right? So we're ranking them against each other and how I would kind of rank the characters overall for like which one's like the most priority that you guys got to get versus the least priority, which is going to be the the worst oones, right? So yeah, so obviously we have all 7 of the characters. So we have the original Slime, we have original Rimuru, we have original Benimaru, original Milim, we have Demon Lord Rimuru, and then also Shuna, and then LR Milim and Xion. So that's all the characters we're going to be going over in today's video, and we're also going to be ranking them accordingly. So if you guys enjoy videos like this, man, definitely make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We are on the road to now 50,000 subscribers, guys, and yeah, I mean, we're closing in on that number. We're almost at 47k as well. I think I'm at like 800 subs right now, 46,800, right? So yeah, I mean, definitely make sure to hit that sub button if you haven't already, if you like the Grand Cross content. And with that out of the way, man, let's start with the original Slime, and we'll talk about where I'm gonna actually rank him. So Rimuru Tempest, the Slime version, actually I'm gonna put in the 6th slot, guys. Now, who is gonna be worse than this guy? That's what you guys must be asking off the rip. But no, the main reason why this character is so good, and you guys can kind of barely see the passives. I won't delve like too deep into why like each character is that much better in terms of reading their kits. But this one is pretty self-explanatory, guys. Allies heal 5% of diminished HP at the start of the allies turn, which is valuable, right? You know, it's backline support, so active even in the sub slot. You can slap this Rimuru on pretty much any team as a backline, and he'll still provide that healing for the team. So I think that alone right there, regardless of his cards, because, you know, his cards are not crazy. I mean, debuff immunity, single target, and then, you know, remove buff, like, it's not crazy. I would still rank the character number 6. Which is insane. You know, you guys might be thinking like, amazing, who is worse than this guy? Who is worse than the SR? Now, moving on to the character that is worse than the SR is going to be the original Rimuru. Now, the reason why I say he's the worst of the batch, in my opinion personally, is that I don't think you're going to really get much value out of him in PvP or PvE. In PvP, he's just not worth running. You have this Rimuru, right? And then in PvE, you know, you're not even going to run him as a taunt unit because there's other better taunt characters in the game. Way better taunt characters in the game, actually. I mean, look at Queen Diane. You know, you have, like, Albedo, right? Tyr, you also have, like, those characters are just going to be a lot better in general as taunt characters, right? I mean, even off the rip and stuff. So, yeah, man, I don't think this character is too great. You know, he did get a buff in his passive where he gets some attack related, but it really is, like, kind of minor. Nothing super crazy, guys. And so, yeah, I mean, if I had to rank the character, I am definitely putting him as the lowest priority. You do not need this character. And honestly, the SR Slime Rimuru will probably be more valuable in, like, PvE content as a backline or even on low-tier PvP as a backline, right? Like, that's why I think, like, you know, still I would have the SR Rimuru above because of the fact that you can use him backline support. Like, if this Rimuru right here had like this type of support, but it was like backline support, right? Like if it was giving allies, you know, defense related stats, right? That would be pretty good, you know, as a backline support, but he doesn't do that, right? So it's all on field, and you don't really care to run this character on field. So that's kind of why I would put him in the number 7, and then we have Slime Rimuru at the number 6. Now moving on to the number 5, guys, we got Benimaru. Now the reason why I think Benimaru is number 5 on the tier list here is because I actually think he's a fairly good PvE character in terms of, like, you know, general like PvE that you can debuff, right? If you cannot debuff in PvE, then he's gonna be very not useful, honestly. But any content that is like debuffable, then he's gonna be good. And you know, he's actually a fairly good DPS. You know, he has a a new effect here where he has the damage taken on the enemy for 1 turn just at the start of the turn, which is good. And then he gets more damage dealt. He has attack related now that goes up to 30%, and he life steals off of all his skills, so that's pretty good. And then yeah, I mean, the weak point is obviously very, very strong. So overall, guys, I would definitely say Benimaru is number 5. But you could honestly, like, let's say you really don't use Benimaru in any content, you could honestly argue like he might be the worst. But I think the value in the sense that he's kind of like a debuff support, right? Like on field debuff support. So even if you're not using him for his main damage, let's say you just run Benimaru just to apply that damage taken 40% debuff, like that's not bad, right? So I think that's why I would kind of rank him above these 2 characters right here. But you know, it's up to interpretation, right? Like, if you don't use debuff-related characters, right? If you're playing PvE content that doesn't require enemies to be debuffed, then yeah, I mean, Benimaru could honestly be like this, right? It could be like this. But yeah, no, I think overall, though, as a unit, I think Benimaru is just better than these 2. But you could see maybe more value at a Slime Rimuru because of the backline support. It is actually a possibility. So yeah, that's where I would rank Benimaru right there, guys, at the number 5 slot. Alright guys, now moving on to the next character, we have Shuna here. Now, also another thing I did actually just realize, guys, is that we need to add a row below because I forgot we have 8 units actually. So this is number 8 right here, and we have to actually change this color right here too. But yeah, no, we do have a 8 because it's actually 8 units. I thought it was 7, but it's actually 8. So yeah, so moving on, we do have Shuna, which I will say is number 5. And the reason why I'd say Shuna is number 5 is that I don't really see too much use out of the character. You know, like, I think she is alright. You know, she has obviously like a really good heal. You know, she also applies a Pierce buff, which actually is fairly valuable, honestly. It's a toss-up for me. Like, the next character I'm gonna also rank, guys, is going to be Milim. So I think it's like a toss-up between these two characters. But I would say the reason why I have Milim above is because Milim is a really good PvE DPS. If you guys saw my Deer video that I did, I mean, Milim is still a great option. Honestly, one of the better blue characters you can run in the Deer. And even in other content too, I mean, she gets a max HP heal from her Holy Relic. She gets crit chance, crit damage. She has a spike card. Like, I mean, all of that is very strong. And if you're talking like, okay, if it wasn't for this new Milim, so because of that, I guess you could say it's like this, right? You could definitely argue Shuna above because Shuna does have backline supportive capabilities, which I do value very highly. Like 30% damage reduction could be good. You know, on field, she has the healing. She has also a stun card too, which is not too bad. And yeah, I mean, it's okay, you know, what she's actually doing, guys. Definitely not like a super crazy unit or anything like that, but it's a welcome buff, you know. It's a welcome buff that you're giving to the team. So because of the new LR Milim, actually, now that I think about it, you could actually argue this Shuna being better. I could see it. I don't know. It's a toss-up for me because I actually would rather use Milim in PvE content over this Shuna. But if I had to choose between these two, it's obvious I'm taking the new LR Milim, right? Like, that's just a given. But I still do see the value. Like, let's say you don't get this LR Milim, this free-to-play Milim right here, guys, is going to be a very good character for a lot of PvE content. So, yeah, no, I think she's good. I think they're very similar, though. But if you guys wanted to rank them at, like, the same tier, I would not be opposed to that, guys. So, it's really up to you. But for this tier list, this is my opinion. I am going to go with Milim above Shuna. I think she does a little bit better. Shuna is pretty good for what she's doing. But I think, you know, if you're looking at like a free-to-play friendly account, like, you're probably gonna get more value out of her, and she's also free too. So, you know, she is accessible for a lot of you guys that are using her as well. So yeah, that's what I would say would be the number 4 and the number 5. Alright guys, now moving on to the next character here, we got LR Rimuru. Now, LR Rimuru, I think, is alright of a character. Like, he didn't really get enough of a buff, but he was already a good character in the sense that he didn't really need a lot to be good, because he was already good, right? But the thing is with him is that they didn't do a lot anyway, and so now he's just kind of like a stagnant character. He didn't really get too much of a buff, and so he kind of just is like alright, you know what I mean? But I would still rock him over like Blue Milim and like Shuna and like all these other characters under, because obviously he has really good CC. You know, he can be used in PvP actually as well. Like, none of these characters really can be used in PvP. Like, anything under like Milim, right? Like Milim, Shuna, Benimaru, like none of them can really be used in PvP. Maybe as a backline, and maybe Shuna as a backline as well. But overall, like, you know, the only one that you can really use so far that we've seen in PvP is LR Rimuru. And yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot going on in his passive. Like, I don't think you guys can really see all of it, but he has buff strip, he has basic stat build up, he gets a pierce buff up to 140%, and yeah, and then his flood skill did get buffed to get flood on it now, or his infect skill got buffed to be flood. And yeah, I think he's all right. You know, I wish they definitely did more with the character, but you already had a good base kit, as I mentioned, so I still will probably give him the number 3 overall. But yeah, I mean, if you don't really use him in a lot of content in the game, he might not honestly be very useful. He could honestly be argued to be around here. But yeah, I mean, overall though, as a unit, he is very good, and you know, being LR, he has a lot of CC, so I gotta give him the number 3 spot, guys, considering, you know, what it is and how good he actually is, you know, compared to the other characters here. Now, moving on, guys, this might be a controversial take. Actually, no, this is not a controversial take at all. I was gonna do, now, okay, this is the thing for me, right? I'm gonna do Milim number 1, Xion number 2. Now, the reason why I was actually, you know, gonna do this, and you guys might think that's crazy, but the reason why I was actually thinking of doing that is because Xion is just an absolutely insane PvE buffer character, and is going to have a lot more longevity than Milim in the long run. Like, if we're talking like, you know, maybe like a year from now, guys, with like PvE content in Grand Cross, like Xion is going to be more valuable than Milim, 100%. Now, if we're talking in the overall, you know, landscape of the game right now, Milim is good in PvE and PvP. So I gotta give it to Milim as the number 1. But like longevity-wise, you could argue Xion as like a, you know, more long-lasting PvE character for your account. I think it could actually be argued, in my opinion. I actually do think you could argue Xion number 1. But I will give Milim number 1 for the fact that right now in the metagame in PvP, she is absolutely absurd. Pretty much one-banging like everyone in PvP. And, you know, another thing as well alongside her that makes her so good is that she gets a damage reduction to like a limit on her damage from being taken to 1 when she kills an enemy, or if one of your teammates die, which is actually clutch in PvP and super insane. And then, you know, another thing alongside that is she has an AoE skill that does so much amount of damage and hits past the damage cap, can hit past damage cap. So that in itself is very valuable. And, you know, I would think that, like, this LR Milim is not going to get power curve for a long time, guys. Like, she's not going to get touched for a long time. She's still very good. But I think that Xion will still, you know, outlast LR Milim, if you guys understand where I'm coming from, pretty much, right? Where it's like Xion, you know, what she's doing for the team is going to be hard to replace, because you would have to release a unit that gives, you know, crit damage, that gives damage reduction, that gives your team a heal and an attack buff based on the amount of, like, regeneration rate you have. Like, that is insane, right? So, you know, again, like, this is something that you can definitely argue about, but right now in the game, Milim is just better. But I would say, for longevity-wise, you could actually argue Xion would be a better long-lasting character. But because we're talking about right now in the game, guys, I gotta give it to Milim. And this would be my ranking right here for the slime characters in Grand Cross, guys. So we have LR Milim at number 1. The main reason why is because she's absolutely broken in PvP. Really, really good in PvE still as well. Number 2 being Xion. Xion is going to be a very good character as well, only being able to be used in PvE, but again, longevity in PvE is there, and she is going to be used in so much content in the future in terms of PvE content, and so that's why I got to give her the number 2. Now moving on to the number 3, we got LR Rimuru. Again, as I mentioned, really good base kid. He did not get much on LR, but that still makes him better than a lot of the other characters that were below, and so I had to give him the number 3. Still a very good character, even after LR and not really getting too much. And then my number 4, guys, is going to be regular Milim as a very good PvE character. And yeah, I mean, you definitely get a lot of value out of her if you're running a lot of Demonic Beast content. She's very good in that. And yeah, I mean, she has self-sufficient healing. She can heal herself based on her gauge. Yeah, there's so much good with this character. I think she's, like, pretty good. And then, yeah, Shuna, again, like, these were arguable, like, number 4, number 5, but I would say Shuna number 5. She, you know, she has a heal that's really good. She buffs up the team with their damage reduction and also giving them pierce rate on field. So, yeah, I mean, you know, fairly strong character right there. And then moving on to number 6 here, guys, we got Benimaru being a fairly good PvE unit as well. You know, being able to apply a damage taken debuff off the rip, I think is pretty valuable. You know, not a lot of characters have like a start of turn debuff like that on enemies that is as unique as damage taken. Like, damage taken is pretty unique, so you're gonna always be able to pretty much get that debuff off on enemies that are able to be debuffed. And yeah, I think overall Benimaru is pretty good. And then moving on, we got the SR Slime Rimuru at number 7. And in my opinion, better because of the fact that you can run him as a backline supportive character. I do see the value in, you know, being able to run him as a backline. Whereas we got the number 8 character, where I really just don't see much use coming out of this character, guys. You're really not going to be using the original Rimuru Tempest. I just don't see him being used in pretty much anything. I mean, you can use him in PvE, but he's just not going to be good. You know, and his skill is also just not really great either. Like, Rupture is just not good. So, yeah, and he has no, like, backline supportive abilities either. So, yeah, just kind of a lacking character in that sense. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much my ranking for all these slime characters overall and where I'd rank them on the tier list. Let me know what you guys think about the ranking here for the slime units, and where would you guys personally rank all 8 of these slime characters, and where are you guys ranking them, you know, according to my list, I guess. Like, from my list, what's different that you guys actually thought about in terms of where you'd rank them. So yeah, man, that's gonna be it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next video, man. Peace out. Have a good rest of your day, guys. See you later, man.